Hello to my sensational 7th graders. Here's a little bit about ocean habitats. Please make sure you have this information ready tomorrow because we'll do a bunch of activities related to each of these things. Alright, here we go. So your first question is, what three categories are ocean organisms classified into, and what are their characteristics? So, well, scientists classify marine mammals into three basic types according to where they live and how they move. The first type has to do with this little guy. And if you ever watch SpongeBob, you'll know who I'm talking about. Yes, the first one is plankton. Plankton are basically tiny animals or algae, which is a plant, that float in the water and they're carried by our currents. What type of currents? That's right, surface currents. Okay? So animal planktons are things like copepods, young fish, things that will become bigger and be able to roam about eventually. And algae are just these little tiny geometric shapes. A lot of them are called diatoms. You don't need to know much about that. Just know that there are both plankton includes both animal and plant. The second type that we classify in them relates to this clue. Can you figure it out? Here we have a neck. How much is this? A ton. When you put it together, what do you get? Nekton. So nekton is the second way we classify organisms, and they are freely swimming animals that can move about the column. So as you can see here, they include things like fish, squid, most marine mammals. And finally, we have these guys. Where do you suppose they live? I think the one in the middle here gives it away. They swim, or actually they don't even swim, they kind of move about the bottom of the ocean floor. So they are called benthos. So the third type of classification is benthos, and they are the ones that live on the ocean floor. I actually don't know if you knew this because I didn't know. I thought that an octopus would be more the nektons, but they actually are benthos. They spend their time on the ocean floor. Okay. So here we have a bunch of animals. Can you see if you can find where the plankton are? So remember, those are those tiny microscopic animals and plants that get moved by the current. So there they are. Okay, and the next group is called what? Good, nekton, and they swim about the column. Which one of these are nektons in this picture? Good, double check and see how you did. So they're the free swimming animals that move about the water column. And then finally, we have the benthos, which are only the last ones. They stay on the ocean floor. Notice you have here some plants as well as animals here. And so each one of these different groupings are important. They're all found in most habitats, maybe not the exact same kinds, but you'll find some types of plankton, some types of nekton, and some types of benthos in almost all areas. And many plankton and benthos are algae. So we talked about at the bottom just a minute ago that you had some plants here. So those might also be plankton as well that come floating up here. Okay, the second question. What are three ocean relationships and how do each get their energy? When we're talking about energy, we're talking about what is consuming what or what is eating what, right? In order to survive, what do? We have to eat. Okay? So there are some animals, however, that don't have to eat other plants and animals like we do. those are called producers. And these are most of your plants that use the sunlight to create their own food using the process of photosynthesis. You've probably heard of that before. And then secondly are consumers, and those are any organism or producer that eats each other. So your meat eaters, so we would be consumers because we eat either plants or animals. And then finally you have decomposers. And decomposers are like this crab here. They will eat organisms that are already dead, so they help to break down waste and dead creatures. Okay. This brings us to the next question. What is a food chain? What is a food web? So as you can see here, we have an example of both. This shows us how the producers, consumers, and decomposers kind of are all interconnected. A food chain always starts with a producer, one of those animal or plants that get its energy from the sun. Okay. And so as you notice, there's one single pathway starting from that, and it shows how the feeding relationship goes, aka it shows how the energy travels from one to the other. So first you have the dinoflagellates that get their energy from the sun, and then when the copepods eat the dinoflagellates, they get their energy from the dinoflagellates, and on it goes. Okay, each one is eating each one until you get to the top of the food case, in this case the large shark. And then a food web is basically the same kind of thing, except instead of showing one chain or one straight line of how energy is traveling from one to another, it shows the whole entire relationships of a whole entire area. And in this case, it would be the ocean food web. So if you notice, you can kind of tell that you have the dinoflagellates who give their energy to both of these things, okay, and even the copepods here, when these animals eat the dinoflagellates. So instead of just having one thing like before, you have many different organisms and their feeding habitats and how they flow, the energy flows through. So that's basically it. The last question that you have is to think about what the food chain and the food web and explain something that's similar and something that's different. All right, I'll see you tomorrow.